Thank you for joining us for this episode of Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles. I'm Duska Cornwell. It is a blast from the past tonight. We'll be talking with Don Drake, who is not only a World War II memorabilia collector, but he also does a little bit of reenacting. We'll talk with him. Plus, we have Les Edwards with us from Shelbyville, Illinois. And Les has a very colorful collection of both small and large automobiles. So if you're interested at all in cars, you got to stay with us. I'm glad to have Don Drake with us for this episode. Don is from Charleston, and he has a fascinating hobby with a little bit of history mixed in, and it has to do with World War II. Don, tell us, how did you get started, first of all, collecting World War II memorabilia?
Actually, I was always interested in it. My grandfather was in World War II. His brother was in World War II. I grew up watching combat on television, and I just liked to play Army when I was a kid. But actually, it started when I restored an old Jeep that my dad had.
Ah, from World War II?
No, it was actually a little bit later than that, but I've since acquired a World War II Jeep of my own, but that's where it started. Started driving it around, some guys saw me, said, hey, do you know about World War II reenacting? We could use you. Here I am.
That's great. So what I love about this is it's not just a collector. We have a hobbyist / collector with us because you are actually involved in reenactments of World War II. Now, I didn't even know that existed. I've heard of Civil War reenactment, but where do you have to go? How far do you have to drive to get to a World War II reenactment?
There's a lot of people who reenact across the Midwest. Sometimes there's an event. We had one at Rockholm Gardens this year, and we hope to have that every year.
That's by Arthur.
Yes, it is, up at Arthur. Rockford, Illinois, Lowell, Indiana, St. Louis, Chicago area. They're all over. I could go to an event just about every weekend of the year if I wanted to.
Well, so do you actually reenact actual battles then from the war?
They'll name something an actual battle, but you get 100, 200 people there. You can call it anything you like. It's just we're just demonstrating World War II.
Sure. I've always wondered this. Now, do you take on a certain character of an actual soldier who was in the war?
Some people do. I do, since my grandfather and his brother were actually in World War II. I reenact with my brother also, and so the two of us will reenact two brothers.
Sure.
That were in World War II, my grandfather and his brother.
This is a picture of your grandfather, is that right?
Yes, that's a picture of my grandfather. He was in the Marine Corps. And the lower center picture is a picture of his brother, who was in the South Pacific for about 39 months during World War II.
So where was your grandfather located?
The South Pacific, Guadalcanal, Bougainville, the Philippines. He was there for almost the whole war.
Wow, that's amazing. And this is a photo home? Is that what you were saying?
I carry that in my wallet, and I say that's a picture of home, and it's actually a photograph of my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather taken in August 1945.
I see.
I carry it in my wallet, and I say this is a picture of home. My dog tags I've reproduced with my great-uncle's name, serial number, so I am actually him. Sure.
That's fascinating. Now, tell me about what it was like the first time you stepped on the battlefield as a reenactor.
It was intimidating, to say the least. We are carrying real weapons, shooting only blanks, but still, you know, we're breaking every safety violation I was ever taught with the use of a firearm by actually shooting at people with them. But you know, I enjoy sitting around and displaying my things, visiting with the public, talking about the war. A lot of time spent sometimes with veterans who come along and they tell us their stories. And part of what it is that we do is try and maintain an oral tradition of these stories. And it's the kind of stories you don't always read about in books, too.
Do you break character when you're there? Or, I mean, like at night, do you sit around and talk just as Don Drake? Or are you always... Because I noticed you have a lot of paraphernalia. When Don walked in, he had his pack full. Every pocket had something in it. It looks like you try to be as authentic as possible.
Absolutely. What I brought today was just the kinds of things that might be typical that would be found in an infantryman's pack that he might carry with him. Everyone had their own taste in things that they carried. Some things were necessities and some things were extra, just, you know, comforts of home or whatever. And when I came in, that's what I had on me so that, you know, I might demonstrate what somebody was always carrying.
Yeah, I thought even, at first I saw this and I thought, ooh, maybe I could wear this during the interview, but it's so heavy. How on earth do you wear this out on the battlefield? You have a good chiropractor, right?
Yes, I have a good chiropractor, and we wear them for short periods of time.
Yeah, there you go. That's really cool. Now, tell me, just pick up some things and tell me the story behind them, or, what's your favorite part of your collection?
Well, it's all favorite, but we start off right here in front of me. This is my wallet, and in that I've got my enlisted man's identification card.
Nice.
My cigarette ration card.
And these are reproduction.
Yes, these are reproductions. And over there I've got some other ID cards and such. Some period money that, a man might carry. Mm-hmm. And that's just, like my personal wallet. My comb. Found this cigarette case. Actually, I got some souvenirs from some German prisoners. Got this cigarette case and got this. I'm going to send this home. I think that was neat. I don't know what it is. I think it's an Iron Cross. And actually, a good find was this watch. This is a really nice watch. It's kind of amazing, though. Illinois Railroad watch. And here I am finding off a guy in Germany, but, you never know what you're going to find. Got some mail from home. Here's a V-mail letter.
Now, yeah, I like this one. This is a...
Soap.
It says United States Army right on there, and it's even got some antique soap in it.
Well, yeah, I'm an antique, too.
Oh, so that you've used the soap, okay.
Yes, this is all stuff that I actually use.
Yeah, because a soldier had to carry everything with him, didn't he? I mean, pretty much. If you were...
soap, razor, my mess kit. Well, that's an extra, but I'm a great baseball fan. I think Guy Bush was the greatest pitcher to ever play for Chicago Cubs. Hack Wilson, all those guys are great. Yeah. And the Cubs are going to go all the way in 1945. I just know it. I just know it.
Love that.
They're going to go all the way.
I've always wondered, why do they call this a mess kit?
Well, mess is an Army term when you eat, is to go to mess. I don't remember why. That's just what they told me in boot camp, okay? Okay. They gave it to me and said, this is your mess kit. So that's what I call it.
Well, what's the food like, Don, on the reenactment field? Is it better probably than they had on the...
Well, it depends on what I'm eating. If I'm eating one of these, it's not so hot.
Is it real?
Well, it's it's K-ration, dinner unit. Yeah. Canned meat, some tin of crackers, maybe some chewing gum or something like that. I mean, it'll fill that hole in your belly, but I always like getting back into the rear a little bit where they actually cook something, and it's all a lot better when you're really hungry.
Of course, one of the first questions I asked Don was, is the gun loaded? You promised me it wasn't.
Oh, no, it's not loaded.
Yeah, but get the gun out. There's guys watching. They're saying, come on, get to the artillery. I want to see what that is.
I've got my pack hanging off of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
That's all right. This is an M1 Garand. Would you like to hold it?
I would, kinda, please.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, and now that's heavy too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Hang on a second.
That's why all of our Army guys have such great muscles. They have to carry all this equipment.
Well, it's a young man's game.
Yeah.
But it is a real gun, and of course it's unloaded. It's been adapted to fire blanks.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you how long it's been since I've fired any live ammunition out of it, but this is a clip of the ammunition. It's just blank ammunition, an 8-round end-block clip. Would carry 8 rounds of ammunition. The rifle fired semi-automatic. This was actually the best infantry rifle in World War II.
Okay.
Everyone else had bolt-action rifles. They'd pull the trigger, then they would have to actually cycle the bolt, whereas this gun would go off pretty much every time you pull the trigger.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So you've heard a lot of stories of the war. What's one of your favorites?
I don't
have
really
any stories of your grandpa?
I have a favorite. My grandfather was in World War II, but basically his part was he cobbled shoes in Newport, Arkansas. And so he didn't see any combat, but he was actually, that's fortunate.
Every role, yeah.
Have to go through that. His brother, on the other hand, shipped out in May of 1942 and spent 39 months in the South Pacific, and most of it in combat. And remember, World War II was only 45 months long.
Right.
And he was in a lot of campaigns, and he, for one, was one not to talk about it. I've had to do a lot of reading to even find out where he might have gone, but those are contained in Army history books. If you know their infantry unit, their regiment that they might have belonged to, then you can do some reading and at least find out where his unit had gone and the kinds of things that they did, if not an actual personal experience from him, because he never would talk about it.
Now, do you have any military background yourself?
No.
Okay. So this is something that reenactment has really given you kind of a taste of what it might be like.
Well, it'd be a small taste. It's certainly not the real thing. I
Sure.
don't have to take orders, but you know, we do. It's a common interest. When we go to a reenactment event, we get to hang out with other people who have share similar interests, interact with the public, and it's really a living history. You go to a museum, you see these things behind glass, and you can just look at them, you can't touch them. But when you come to a reenactment or a living history event, the men were actually wearing these things, we're using these things, you can hold them, you can touch them, you can feel them, actually see them in action. And I think that's the part that the public really enjoys, and I enjoy doing that for the public.
Well, and I love that you're sharing it with your family. We have a photo on our back wall of two happy guys. Now, you said that was taken when? On your birthday?
Yeah, that was actually my birthday. That's my brother and myself, and you know, I'm sitting here in an American uniform, but when we reenact, some people have multiple impressions. And that particular night, we were reenacting the 1939 invasion of Poland, and of course, since there were no American soldiers in that particular battle, that my brother and I we were doing German that weekend, and it was my birthday, and my friends found out, and they found a cookie, and they stuck a match in it and lit it and gave it to me and said, "Here's your cake," and they sang happy birthday to me. And I love reenacting with my brother, and I think that's a great photograph.
Well, I wish I had found out earlier that today is actually Don's birthday. I thought, well, surely we could find a cupcake and stick an Army guy on it or something. But happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I wanted to point out one more photo before we close. Tell us about the gentleman in the photo in front of you.
Oh, that's actually a photograph of myself.
You're in the middle there in the front.
Yes, it is. And my brother and my oldest son, who reenacted with me for several years.
So he's here on the,
he'd be the younger looking one.
It would be on their left.
Yeah.
Am I right?
The youngest looking one.
The young, tall, handsome buck there.
Yeah, the young, tall, handsome one, of course. And sometimes when we take photographs, we like to take photographs in black and white or sepia tone to kind of give him that period look, because they didn't necessarily have a lot of color photography back then.
Sure, and I love that authentic look, because when I first saw it, I had to ask you, is this a reenactment or an actual photo?
I've noticed that. I've shown these photos before, and it's like, is this like your grandpa in World War II or something? No, it's me. And it's like, oh, I did not recognize you.
Sure, sure.
So I get that a lot.
Well, I'm just so thankful that you came and shared this with us, and I think this would be an interesting hobby for some young people to check into. Do you have very many young people?
Yes, I actually like getting the young people, because I'm over 50 and I'm trying to portray a corporal or a sergeant in the Army, but it's very nice to have young men get involved. They look more correct, of course, because they're the right age, but it's carrying on the tradition and try and get a sense of history, educational, and somebody to carry on.
Sure. Well, thank you, Don, for sharing part of your birthday with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I love this job. I get to meet the most interesting people. And today I've got Les Edwards here from Shelbyville, Illinois, and he has a wonderful collection. You have small cars, you have big cars. Les, tell me, what do you have?
I have the big cars and I have the little cars, several of them.
Yes, you do. It's wonderful. Now you have we're going to show the audience some pictures of some of the actual cars that you drive around, but explain the little cars. These aren't necessarily models. Some of them are actually what I would call a premium that you would have received when you purchased a car?
Yes, yes, that is true. More of these cars, most of these are in the 60s. So when you bought a new car, and many of them are Chevrolet models, they would give to you a model of the car that you purchased.
I see.
So these are like 1/25th size of the real car. So some of the ones that I have the real one sitting at home in my car box.
I love that. Is there a favorite that you have of your smaller models?
Probably the 62 Chevrolet. I really enjoy, because that was the year that I graduated from high school. And wanted a new car, and obviously couldn't afford it then. And next year is our 50th class reunion, so I plan on going back to my high school reunion and taking the 62.
That will be cool. Now, I'm not one of those people that can look at a car and say, okay, that is a 1962. Which one is the 62 Chevrolet?
The 62 is the picture behind us.
Ah, that pretty picture.
And then there's the white model that's on the table in front of us too.
Oh, okay, this one right here?
Yes, that's a 62.
That's a 62 Impala.
Chevrolet.
Convertible. Evidently.
Well, it's like a convertible.
It's become a convertible.
It could be.
Oh, well, my favorite, if I had to pick one out here, is going to be this. Tell me, well, first, I love it, anything metal and old, but the color is so cool.
That is a Corvair, what they call a ramp side. The Corvairs were actually made and started in 1960 through 1969. They only made them for 10 years. And this is the pickup truck that they made. And it's called a ramp side because the writing here, and it's missing, but that's where the ramp laid down. Oh. And it was an automatic ramp for animals and for you to load things into the truck. And of course, the motor was in the back. It was, all the Corvairs were air-cooled. There was no water in the Corvairs. Oh. So they basically were, you didn't have to worry about them freezing in the wintertime.
Well, see, now I think that's really convenient. I've loaded a few trucks in my day. Well, I've supervised the loading of a few trucks in my day, and I don't know why they ever got rid of the side loader. I like that. Is that unique to them?
Very, very unique. It's the only one that I know of Chevrolet that they made one like that was in the Corvair.
Okay. Now we have a couple of pictures of Les and his bride as they were at your wedding. Tell me about this car. Now you own this car.
I do own that car. That is a 1929 Model A Ford. And I said the F word there, the Ford, you know, that's okay.
I was going to say Ford.
Most of my cars are Chevrolets, but that's the first antique car that I owned. And when my wife and I got married in July of 1977, we drove away from the church. We got married at Dorrance Lutheran Church. We drove away from the church in that car, and I had some other of my cars in the procession, but we didn't come home in that car. It got about 5 miles and decided that's all it wanted to go, so we came home in other cars. But we left the church in that car, so it was neat.
Oh, I love it. Now,
one of our stories.
Yes. Now, was it in that condition when you found it, or did you have to fix it up?
No, it was. I restored it. Oh, okay. It was actually painted International Red, which was not an original color for a 1929. So I've restored it back to its original color.
I see. I just had to show you this one. Is this not one of the cutest pictures you've seen of the just married Bev and Les? I love that one. Now, this is the original, how much it cost originally, and it's kind of hard for the camera to pick up on this, but can you just give us an idea what it says?
The car, the red 62 that I have, I brought a picture of it. You'll probably see later.
Oh, okay.
That's the one behind us on the wall back here.
Oh, that one.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's the 62, and this that's the original invoice for that car. It came from north of Bloomington, and it sold for right around $3,000 in 1962.
Wow, that's no fair.
And you can see on the side there, you might tell some of the cost of like the power steering was like, if you got power steering for it, was like $50.
Oh, yeah.
So not very much.
I like that. Now, is there a vehicle that you want to own that you don't have yet?
Oh, there's a lot of cars I don't have that
Any car fanatic would have to admit, right?
But the ones that I have, we enjoy them. We enjoy driving them and going to, we go to a lot of national shows with the cars, and we just got back in July from Flint, Michigan, where was 1911 was the start of Chevrolet. So we celebrated 100 years of Chevrolet in Flint, Michigan, where they made them. So we had a reunion there, and there were around 1,600 people there and about 800 Chevrolets, all Chevrolets.
Oh, that would have been
Flint, Michigan. We're up there for a week, so I took the 62 up there. Enjoyed it.
How many collectible cars do you have? How many antique cars?
I have probably 14.
Oh, wow. Where do you keep them? Do you have a barn?
I have a car barn. We have a car barn. In fact, we built a new home a few years ago, and I built the car barn before we built the house. And the people thought we were living in the car barn because I built it because I had to move my collection from where we live. So, but no, we have a car barn, and we just enjoy them.
And bless Bev's heart. She's okay with this collection?
She loves them too. She's the official window cleaner when we go to the car shows.
Gotcha. Now tell me, this is one of your cars. What is this one?
That is a 1965 Corvair, And I'm the third owner of that car, and it's an original car. And it's was sold in Mattoon, actually. And I'm the third owner of it, and it's only got like 30-some thousand miles.
Oh, wow.
And that's the original paint and interior and chrome. And in fact, the tires are original tires, and they use that car for, when I go to a Corvair show, to measure the width of the white walls to show people what they're supposed to have been when they were new. So that's an all original car, and it's a very high point car. So
see, I wish I remembered what year. My dad has a Corvair car in his barn somewhere behind the rest of his stuff, and it was blue. I remember it was blue, but don't have a clue what year it was. He got married around that time, so it has to be.
They started in 1960.
Okay.
And they stopped in 69, so it's got to be one of those.
Yep. Well, I was born in 69, so let me. Yeah, it might even be this model, Les. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, this car here is also 62. This is what they call the early model 60 or Corvair, which was from 60 through 64, and that car you had just shown was what was called the late model, which is 65 through 69.
Oh, I see. Hand me that one. That one's my second favorite.
Yes.
That is, and it's in such great condition. It's even got the little windshield wipers. That is neat. Now, would that have been given when you bought this model of a car?
I'm not sure. It could have been, but that is a 60 model. That's the first year they made those.
I like that one. That one might just disappear before you leave today.
Well, I've got some others at home just like it. So.
Oh, you're not making it any easier on me.
I will share.
Okay, let's talk about, you got a couple of really neat ones back here I want to be sure to have time for. What is this one?
That is a 1948 Chevrolet. Again, that's all original. I'm the third owner of that car. And actually sold in Mattoon. A pastor bought it in 1948, and there was a farmer north of Mattoon bought it in 50, and he drove it very limited miles, and he lost his vision, so he had it in a garage, and he would simply back it out of his garage and drive around a tree in his driveway. And I heard about it and looked at it, and he sold it to me with intentions of keeping it like it is, which it is. But that's a fleet line. That's the in 1948 they made 3 body styles, and this is the top of the line. This would be the best Chevrolet you could have bought in 1948, and actually the selling point of that car in 1948 was fingertip shifting, and basically catered to women because it had a vacuum shift, so they were all straight shifts. They weren't automatics then. So for the ladies, you simply push in the clutch, and with your fingers just push it up to the next level.
I like that. You didn't have to break a nail.
You wouldn't. And but that has a wood grain on the inside, and I admire that car because even today, I can shut the doors and you have to push hard. It sure doesn't go clink, it goes clunk, you know. It's very solid cars.
And you have one more picture here of one that you own. I gotta pull this one out.
And that's a Corvair. That's a 1963, and that is very similar to this, except it's a 2-door. And I also have that car in my car barn.
Now, I've seen a trend lately. A lot of people who are getting married are borrowing like old cars.
Yes.
Have you had that happen?
I
Anybody
have.
ask you?
I have a 67 Mustang convertible that, of course, when I was a teacher, and this child obviously grew up and got married, and they asked to borrow that car, and I loaned that to them for their wedding, so they drove away from the church in a 67 Mustang convertible.
Sweet ride.
Yes, it is. It is.
Do you do any parades with your vehicles?
Sometimes I don't do a lot because most of them they go so slow that it's hard on the clutches and so forth. And a lot of them in the summertime, and you go so slow, like the Model A, the 29, it has a tendency to get hot. So I don't do too many. If it's a Christmas parade, I would do that, and I have done that.
You know, you're not alone as a car collector. You know, there are lots out there. What is it about cars, do you think, that kind of revs our motor, if you will?
Well, I think a lot of it is just the style. If you would hold that black car right there, that 41, that's a 41 convertible. And with all the chrome, and I have that car also in my car barn. It's a 41 Chevrolet. And with all the chrome and all the accessories on it, that had that car had about probably well over 50 to 60 accessories, meaning accessories would be
like add-ons?
It had its own flashlight, it had its own holder for an umbrella, it had a lot of things that just you don't get today, but with all the chrome and just very well made. It was really the last major car they made before World War II. So they made a few cars in 42, not very many. Then they did not make cars 43, 4, and 5, and then they started remaking cars in 1946.
I see.
And I have a 46 also.
Well, I don't know much about cars, but I know a lot more now after talking to you. I've really enjoyed having you come, Les. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Maybe we'll see you on the road. Be sure to honk, okay?
I will be glad to do. I'll give you a ride.
We'll go cruising.
Yeah, just glad to do that.
Sounds good. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles. If you or someone you know has a hobby, a craft, or a collectible, please be sure and contact us at the information on your screen. We would love to sit down and talk with you.